Okay, so here's my presentation for inclusive classrooms and my reflection that I've learned through the course. So the one main thing I found really influential in this course was learning about technology and how it impacts inclusivity in the classroom, how you can use it for lots of different modifications, and how every student can use it. And it really focuses on learner centeredness, the theory, so that every kid can get the learning that they need the most. I also didn't realize I knew about all these different applications like speech to text and text to speech and speaking calculators, and I knew about a lot of these modifications, but I had never really thought about or considered how the technology has to still be in line with the curriculum. It can't be some great math game that doesn't follow the curriculum, that educators need to find activities that are in line with what they're supposed to be teaching so that the kids are still learning those goals. And that the assessments still need to be done. So the for, of, and as and of assessments that educators do before they start teaching something, during, and what they need to do after for the reflection. So that reflection piece is really important for how technology is utilized with inclusion and how it's benefiting them, or if it's not benefiting them, and if it needs to be updated or changed per kid and individualized for everyone. The other thing I found really influential in this course is when we talked a lot about self-regulation, especially if you guys remember the video that we watched of that kindergarten class in BC. I absolutely loved that video. So previously, I really viewed self-regulation as, okay, a kid's not self-regulated, maybe they're really upset, they're really mad, or they're shutting down a little. Well, then there's just, we're self-regulating so that they feel better and they can participate. But I didn't realize how much it's, about not omitting the child's opinions. The kids will tell you what they want, so you need to be receptive to everything that they say and what their needs are, because they'll make that very clear. And that there's ways to prompt students to learn how to express themselves. So they're upset about something. Okay, how did that make you feel? And that kids learning how to express their opinions empowers them, because they're able to self-advocate for themselves, and that really creates a more inclusive environment for themselves if they're able to advocate and self-regulate themselves. And just a general personal reflection, we've all seen that picture there. We saw it earlier in the course, and I feel like I was kind of more the second. And it's amazing how you look at the second, you think, oh, I'm inclusive, right? Every kid can see over the fence in a classroom, but there's a big difference between ability and disability, and giving kids what they need to modify so that they can participate along with every other kid. And there's a big difference between that and removing the barriers so that every kid feels equally included. They feel like they belong in that community, and they don't feel like, oh, well, I need this to belong. They just feel like they belong, and that can really empower a kid to do amazing things. The for, of, and as assessment, I didn't really realize how important assessments were, and how you need to be constantly evaluating to make sure that your space is inclusive. All these changes that are constantly going on, it's amazing how people think, oh, well, this is inclusive, but what we view as inclusive, the holistic picture, constantly changes every day. And as educators, we need to be constantly modifying and adapting to being inclusive and continuing to grow in that way. And something I had never really thought of was labeling, and how in some instances it can be good and it can get kids the help and the funding that they need, but in many cases it can kind of pinhole them in a box and not allow them to grow and be seen outside of that. Just like they say, it's not the autistic child, it's the child with autism. The person who they are gets placed before that, not whatever they're labeled as. Every kid is different, and whether they are labeled with an exceptionality, every kid learns different, every kid feels different, and they need to be treated as the person and not as their exceptionality. And just amazed at the system structure and how the education system is changing into putting certain kids in one class, and more making an inclusive environment where every kid can learn individually within what they need. And there's my references.